All right, welcome back for another Sad Jams interview. I'm really excited for this one. We have me, Rex, joining us today. And just a little bit about the band, if you're not familiar. It started as a one-person bedroom pop project with Miles McCabe, basically writing about his world filled with ideas about friendship, forgiveness, joy, and dinosaurs. The band eventually grew with friends Catherine Woods, Phoebe Cross, and Rich Mandel. And they were releasing a handful of EPs throughout 2020, also dinosaur themed with Triceratops and Stegosaurus, and recently unleashed a monster of an album, 52 tracks long, titled Mega Bear. The idea behind the album is to put it on shuffle, and this concept really sparked some interest from some of the major supporters at Pitchfork, Stereogum, and a couple more. So just want to say welcome to me, Rex, and thank you for joining me.
Lovely, thanks for having us.
For sure. Also, just like kicking it off, like I heard you were on tour, or I think you have one date left from what I can see. Like how's that been going? Is it to support your project, or is it just like your first one as a band?
So we did actually tour as a band 2 years ago. two full years ago.
Knocking the rust off with this one.
Yeah, for sure. And it was we didn't have Catherine for this run here because she's studying in Dublin at the moment. But we did have Sophie, who, funnily enough, was also on our last tour. In the band's Cheerleaders.
Familiar.
Which Phoebe and Catherine also playing.
Very cool. And is this one we can get into the album later, but is this to support like the album, or are you just playing like your EPs?
This is for our new. Well, I suppose it's technically the Mega tour as well, because we didn't get a chance to tour around that. But since between Mega Bear and this tour starting, we also released Never Graduate, which is part of the Pterodactyl EP.
Okay.
Which is coming out soon.
Okay.
It's kind of everything pretty much, because in the time since we last toured, we've released like 2 EPs, an album, and have another EP coming out. So it's kind of just hitting it all in one big go.
Oh yeah, that's true. None of that stuff has been taught.
As like, I'm not like a creative or like a songwriter, but it feels like that's a ton of music to I mean, obviously the world was shut down for about a year, so it gave you time to write, but it just like writing and mastering and all that stuff, it feels like that's just like so much to put out. Like, was it like daunting, or did it feel like a lot, or was it like all ready to go and you just like decided to release it throughout the year while you were just had some time off?
So a lot of it is stuff that I had kind of already written and put out versions of. But that didn't have the whole band, and then Mega Bear was obviously like it's a it's a high concept thing, and took a lot. It was a long time in the making, so it was really by the start of lockdowns coming in and stuff. Mega Bear was pretty much ready to go, but we hadn't put out the earlier EPs yet, so. Plan was, EPs, tour, Mega Bear, tour, next thing, tour, but we're really kind of making up for lost time on this one.
That's crazy. But yeah, I just diving to Mega Bear. I mean, I was lucky enough to grab the album.
Gorgeous.
So cool. The artwork is amazing. Color's great. But yeah, I know for those who might not know, like Mega Bear's 52 tracks. I think the longest track is like 1:16, and the shortest one is like 32 seconds. But like, do you want to like tell the concept behind it? I know there's a lot that like goes into it and behind like the marketing of the album.
Sure. Yeah. So the most of the tracks are 32 seconds. And the idea is that any one of them can flow seamlessly into any other one, and it can be played as one continuous piece of music. and it's primarily designed for streaming sites, really just as a ploy to boost our numbers.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like my other job is working like with streaming partners, and so like when I saw it drop, I was like, my mind was like, wow, this is like cool. And then I read about like your concept, but then also it's like you need to hit like 30 seconds for it to like count.
Yeah.
So just like doing that was like, I was like, wow, I'm like, why haven't more people like thought about doing this?
Sure, I would love to see other people kind of explore the format, for sure. There's a lot of stuff, because making it, we didn't know whether any aspect of it was going to work at all. And so there are certain things, like with regard to key changes, we kept it more or less around B flat for the whole thing. There are some that kind of modulate and come back, but to do with key changes, there is again some time signature changes, but with all of those things that we saw as like quite risky to the smooth running of the whole thing, we were fairly cautious. So it goes into 6/8, and it can slide back in from that quite easily.
That's just like so much to like consider for such like a long album. Like I'm again, like I don't write or anything, but it feels like musicians, like sometimes it's just like one track at a time, but you're just like taking a span of like 52 tracks, like it's 30 minutes long, I think, but also the whole concept of like making it match like however you have it, like that's like so much to consider. I'm sure like it took a lot of time.
Oh, for sure as well. And I was being cynical about the concept earlier. I was being tongue in cheek, I suppose. But like what does kind of get I forget particularly to talk about how much care went into the writing. As much as with any other song, any other album, any other piece of work. I put as much care into writing the lyrics as I would any other song, and making sure that was consistent with the concept of the album as well.
For sure. What's like the process? Because it sounds like it could just be one giant song, but obviously like how you uploaded it and the order of the tracks on the services, like it does feel like there is some sort of story, or there's some sort of like arch. Like you start, like for me when I was listening to it, like it starts like joyful tones, like some of the tracks, and then as you get like closer to the end, it sort of feels not hopeless, but it feels like less like something is like done, like at the beginning.
Sure.
So I did like what, like is that just the overall concept and you just like wrote with that?
Well, actually, so are you talking about the order on the streaming sites?
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the random orders, and I think what's particularly interesting about the the experience of having it in the world, and the listener's experience of the album is what you bring to it, and also the fact that when you're listening to the first song, it's the first song and it's completely out of context of the rest of the album. When you get into the middle, that's within the context then of everything you've heard up to that point. So it's a different song when it comes in the middle of the album to when it comes at the beginning or the end of the album.
Sure. Oh, sorry, go for it.
I only listened to the version on the streaming site literally about 3 weeks ago, and like trying to explain the concept to somebody else. And I was like, oh, you just press play. And I was like, really? Do we start with this?
Yeah. Is it a 6/8 one? Is hydrogen the
thing?
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah. So to the point where I was like being like, should we change the order just to mess everyone up?
And that's one of the longer tracks as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that's the only one. That's one that just doesn't recur as well, which is quite cool. But yeah, to that point, but like
an interesting choice.
That is so now I don't even know. Like I'll have to like listen to a bunch more. But like
the funny thing is that some people be like, I've seen comments being like, I like it in the order in Spotify, but it doesn't work in other orders. And it was like, what order is it in Spotify? Like, it's just whatever it used to be. Like we worked on it in this very specific order, which is I think pretty similar to the version on the vinyl, and that's what's in my head.
There must be a lot of psychology in this. Like, I hadn't considered that.
Wait, is the order on the vinyl different than how it is on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my, wow.
So
Yeah.
I thought I was a fan. I guess
mean-
like I'm not. I need to go back to the drawing board. Wow.
for ages, the songs were just numbers, so we only
Yeah.
knew them as
Yeah.
song 1, song 2, song 3. So
That's so crazy.
I couldn't
that's-
tell you
Yeah,
what
none
each
of us
song is called.
really know the titles.
Yeah, and we did kind of want to get around that thing of people projecting intention onto the order that we present it in, by encouraging people to shuffle it.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously you come up against difficulties with Spotify, particularly like when you shuffle it, it sometimes comes with gaps and you have to, you know, set settings. So yeah, there's always going to be that idea that we have an intention for how it should be heard, but yeah, that was something that we really tried to avoid.
The website as well just plays randomly. Like if you go megabear.co.uk, it will change the order every time you listen. And I
Yeah.
think that's maybe the best way to listen to it if you're not going to download the MP3s,
Okay.
because it is gapless. But also, like, I think in shuffling it, you kind of have a potluck. Like sometimes it works amazingly. Sometimes you get all these random coincidences.
That's-
And other times it just doesn't land as well as it could land. That's kind of the point.
The whole story is completely different. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
My
Wow.
record player is broken, but I'd love to put the
Yeah, we
record
haven't.
on.
Yeah, we haven't listened to it.
Love to hear the record at some point,
When I go
as it was
listen
intended.
That's so cool.
I think the record was 1 to 52, the order that I'd be most familiar with, right?
There's a few changes.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
My mind's blown now. Gosh.
So I know you just said that they're just like numbered tracks, so you don't really have like a concept of like what they're titled. I was gonna ask you like, what's your favorite sequence on the?
Well, it starts with yeah.
I was gonna ask you that, but now that it's like different than the vinyl and everything, like it truly is just like, just listen to it and like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, that last minute was really cool.
Yeah. We have some sequences that we play live that are
Okay.
like ingrained in my head as their own songs now.
Is
Yeah.
that difficult? Because
Yes.
I was gonna say, 'cause like you all just might be like playing like a random track and it just lines up, or like a random sequence.
Yeah.
It's just practice, I think. Like they kind of form their own, they've kind of got their own arrangements and they've kind of formed as their own separate things.
Everything becomes familiar eventually.
Yeah, but I don't think about that when we're playing it. I see people's faces sometimes and they don't know what section's coming next.
That's
So it's like you'll start the first bit and then you'll like, it's like when you start a song and you see people's eyes like get slightly wider. This happens like 15 times during one sequence.
Yeah.
you think it like, do people sing along or anything with that sequence, or is it just like they're trying to figure it out throughout the
Just
whole?
trying to figure it out, I think, because we've not released that sequence. We don't tell anyone what that is in advance.
Mm.
Yeah, I can barely follow it.
It does feel risky. Like it feels like it's a very touch and go.
Yeah.
I mean, unless somebody's like super familiar with the album, you could just like play something like completely random that wasn't even on the album. And they're like, oh wow, like I gotta go back and like listen for this part. And it's just like, it's so long and it's so, there's so many.
I've been trying to find songs that could canonically be Mega Bear. So like anything at B flat, 120 BPM. I haven't found any that really sit though. There's no database that's where you can like cross reference key and tempo.
Maybe that's something that's a startup right there.
Let's
Yeah.
be real. We don't need more songs.
So I know you said you're about to release your EP. Are you looking to get away from this concept that you just put out, or is this like, was that like a one-time thing, or do you think you'll continue to move it forward with like bigger projects?
I think there's more there, certainly. Following not necessarily the exact same thing, but taking that as a starting point and exploring.
Mm.
Sure, but I think that the concept was always we were going to do regular songs alongside the conceptual projects as well.
Okay.
Like, it's kind of, we were never going to be like, all right, from now on, we're only playing half an hour songs that you can shuffle in segments.
Yeah. That's your thing now. It's just like random songs.
Once you found
Yeah.
your niche, why veer away? No, I'm very against doing that one.
I would love for someone else to do it.
Yeah, I'm all up for that. Go for it.
I was trying to think of like another project that was similar to this. Was there anything like you based it off of, or was it just, I don't know, like just it occurred to you on one night while you were sleeping, like, oh, this is gonna be cool?
So there are a few kind of instances of similar projects. By the Flaming Lips, the Savvy Fav, like a few more kind of ambient things. It was partly inspired by I suppose the idea of like serialism in music, and certain like minimalists as well, and just that thing of taking a random process and introducing that as an element into the composing. The idea partly came out of another idea that I had that was to take like much shorter cells. So it was like literally one line each, where every single one would rhyme with every other one.
Okay.
And to do like a 2-minute song that was that, but that was different every time. Then I was listening to a podcast talking about grime music and how it is so well suited to streaming because the songs are short, and then kind of from that I started to sort of put the ideas together. Oh, the other thing was I was writing a 1.5 hour long song, and so when I had the realization that for the 5 people that listened to that half-hour song all the way through, I would only get 5 streams. I was like, hang on a second.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was the first time I heard it. It was just a long song.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you just split it up in like different sections.
Oh, so I didn't get very far into writing the half-hour long
okay.
song. I was sort of compiling ideas for it, and then I was like, hang on, I'm splitting this up anyway in order to write it. So what if it was short cells? Rich is doing the money hands. Get those numbers, baby.
What?
Start stacking it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's like, I mean, I definitely need to go back and listen to all the different elements to it.
Listen to every single possible variation.
I know. I'll have to come back, and I'll send you all an email about my findings. But that's so interesting. I guess like the only other thing, just to wrap it up, like this, like I mentioned, like Sad Jams is just like about shining light on like bands that might not get like playlisting or anything like that. I'm not saying that that's you, but I just wanted to like, do you have any bands that you're like particularly fans of right now that you want to put people on, or just like make sure like they're known, or somebody like you're really interested in right now?
There's some, we played with some really, really great bands on tour. Hamburger, I really enjoyed. Carpet, Worm Boys, Milk Crimes, of course. Yeah. We played with Your Poetry, who I think
I love your poetry.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Just incredible live. I'd not seen them live before. I'd heard just recordings, but like such a cool way of setting things up.
Yeah.
Who was that one in Bristol, from Bristol, but we saw in Glasgow? It began with an S. Do you remember?
Pet Shimmer. They were great. Unfortunately, we had to load out while we were playing an all day. We had to load out while they were playing. But it was one of the more pleasant loadouts. One of the less unpleasant ones.
I was getting in the car, I missed it.
Oh man. Wow. Yeah, some of those bands like been really interested in for a while now. So I'm glad that they're still like your poetry they were sort of dormant for a while. So I'm glad they're coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, they were cool the other night.
It was really good. Me and Miles, every time we see a band that have got lots of bleepity bloopity stuff,
Oh yeah,
me and Miles are
that's the
into
stuff.
Love that. Well,
I was
yeah.
talking about like vocal pitch pedals all the way home.
Oh, I don't know what the bloopity bleepity stuff is, but I'm gonna I'll have to like dig into it a little bit more. Well, yeah, I mean that's like basically all I had. I just want to say thank you again for taking the time. I'm sure I don't know what time it is there.
Not
might
bad.
be-
It's
like
6:30.
six.
in the
Half
evening.
six.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you still have your evening to enjoy. So I'll let you get to it. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You taking the time and just looking forward to some more music.
That's
Lovely.
okay.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yep.
Nice to
Thank
meet you.
you.
Thanks, Jordan. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.